G'day, Bomber fans. We've got a delayed player ratings video from the Carlton game. It feels weird to talk about a game that happened so long ago, but here we are. Player ratings from the King's Birthday Eve clash. I think we're closer to the Geelong game than we are to that game, but we're going to do it anyway. All right, we're not gonna miss a video. Let's get into it. Starting with Andy McGrath, as always. I thought he was pretty good, as he usually is. I thought the Smalls did get a hold of us, but it was rarely McGrath's direct opponent that did the damage. And realistically, thinking about our back six, I think McGrath is pretty much the only available defender who's actually been in that setup for, more than a few games. Archie Roberts is the other one, but he's only played 15 or so matches. So, his teammates around him are all injured. It's a makeshift back line. The onus is on him to perform. So for us to contain the Blues on a pretty clear night, that it wasn't wet like we thought it was going to be, I thought that was good. So his defensive work was solid. You can never knock him for that. I thought he was pretty good with ball in hand, 100% by foot, so that'll annoy some of you. Or I should say, that is fairly misleading. I don't think he was a perfect kick all night. I actually thought there were a few pretty iffy moments where he ran himself into trouble. But no, I thought McGrath was good. He was solid. He was really clever at times, very unclever at other times. It was a pretty standard McGrath game. Probably not amongst our best players, but in an under-the-pump back line, he was the leader in there, kind of getting everyone's act together. If we're going to praise Merrett for carrying the midfield for years, you got to look at what McGrath did and our back six, and he was the general back there. And at the ground, you can pretty clearly see the impact that he has on those around him, which was cool. Because I was looking at him a fair bit in that third quarter and just noticing what he was doing specifically. He also led the team for intercepts, 10 for the game, which is elite numbers. So, 7 out of 10. Pretty standard Pidge game. I didn't leave that game thinking anything other than, he didn't exceed expectations and he didn't disappoint me. Darcy Parish, first game back from injury. And let me say, this guy is copping a weird amount of hate. I feel like there's some pretty heavy Essendon fan base favouritism. We're all happy to give Caldwell some slack when he was slow to return off injury. I did the same. I think it's always fair to give players, a bit of leeway after a layoff. I did the same with Langford too. But the attitude towards Parish after this game is wild for a bloke who actually played a decent match. He had over 30 touches, 10 clearances. That second quarter, I really noticed him getting going out of stoppages and centre bounces. He had 5 clearances in that quarter. And look, he was a tiny bit sloppy and slowish to react. I think that is expected, if anything. I didn't think he was going to come back and be elite. But, like I did with Caldwell after he came back from a month-long hamstring injury, I'm going to cut Parish some slack with his. But, if this still continues and he's still sloppy-ish by round 20, I'm obviously not going to be happy. We need to see him lift eventually. But for a guy to have no preseason, have setback after setback, come in after a couple of VFL games and play like this, I thought Parish was good. I think there's some really weird hate towards certain players in this team. McGrath's one of them, we know that. Parish is another. We'll probably find some others as we go along. But the criticism those players get is never directed towards fan favourites like Caldwell and Durham. I don't know why. It's weird. Parish gets a 7. I'm sure someone in the comments will be pretty annoyed by that for some reason. For a first game back from a layoff that long, I thought he was good. And speaking of Jye Caldwell, I think I said his name before. Another 7, 3 in a row to start. I liked him, I thought he was not at his best by foot. I think we have to start by saying that. I think he may have had the lowest disposal efficiency and most turnovers, or close to it. And those aren't just stats. You could tell he wasn't at his usual punchy best by foot. But I really liked his attack on the ball, and that's just a constant at his game. His tackling pressure was massive. 8 for the game. So many clearance halting tackles as well. It was pretty much him and Setterfield in the guts all game, and then players around them switching. And I think there was less dynamism at times from both Caldwell and the Bombers midfield. I loved his defensive work for the most part, but I think the attacking side of his game wasn't at its best. So I'm going to give him a 7. I thought that was a pretty standard Caldwell game, which is a very good thing. He's one of our best players. And I thought against the Blues, he was, maybe around the 5th or 6th best on-ground range, I'll say. I think that's around where Caldwell sat. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10. He was good. Now, this is a tough one, okay? There's a few really tough ones, actually. I was, because I usually give little, ranges. Like, sometimes it'll be, like with Caldwell, for example, it'll be, 7 or 8. I'll have that written down, and I just kind of decide on the moment. But here with Merrett, I've got a bit of a broader one. Because, look, I usually judge based on expectations, or I do judge based on expectations. So I'm not going to treat, Merrett the same as Luamon Lual. I'm not going to give them the same, they don't have the same expectations in their game. But I feel like Merrett's night, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like I've seen Merrett play worse games than this, despite the stats looking like proper stinky. Yeah, I gave Merrett a lower rating for the Bulldogs game, I think. I never released that, but I would have. I think even the other week I might have, I don't know. But if Merrett has 14 touches, it's rarely a good thing, But then again, how much of Merrett was actually impacting the game? I thought he was reasonable-ish down back, reasonable-ish. That's a word now. I thought he was all right down back given the circumstances. I thought when he was resting forward, he kind of lacked that game-breaking best, but he lacked it the whole game. But I thought he defended well enough. 9 tackles, that was pretty solid. There was that awesome smother. I think he was playing forward that might have led to a Wright goal, or a shot on goal at least. His tackling pressure was good. As far as roles go for Merrett, this was a tag escape. He was playing in the midfield a bit, but also, Chincotta was there. He had to play behind the ball to escape the tag and also help our class back there. His class, in the defensive half wasn't the greatest. He had that really sloppy turnover, I think, from a kick out. I don't know. I've seen him battle tags better than this. Sydney the other week is a great example. He wasn't in our best players in that game, but I still gave him a decent rating because of his role. Yeah, I guess, we just didn't see a lot of him. He was just pretty much like another player on the list. I don't even think he'd be in our top 10 or so players on the night. And if Merrett's not in our top 10 or so, it's not good, I guess. So I'm going to give him a 4, I think. I'm just going to give him a 4. I'm just going to, I'm going to do it and move on. But yeah, it could be anything. I could be very wrong in that. I don't know. It feels weird because I don't think he was really that bad. I think he was just battling a tag and struggling. I don't know. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Ben Hobbs, I mean, similar story. Well, not really similar story, but I liked what he did without the footy. Especially early in the game, actually. In that first quarter, it felt like he was one of the players really having a crack. I think it was him and Luamon Lual who were really applying heat. 3 tackles in that first quarter alone. No disposals, but I think, despite no touches, I thought that was his best quarter of the game. And he did get his hands on it a bit more as the game went on. He had 8 touches to round it out. But yeah, I don't really remember any of them. And maybe that's because it's been a few days since the game. But I don't know. I genuinely think the best of Hobbs was in that opening quarter, applying tackling pressure around the forward half. And that did kind of remain throughout the game, but nowhere near as much. After quarter time, he had the 2 tackles. I mean, there were plenty to like about parts of his game. You can see half of his role being played really well. I just don't think we see enough of him going forward. He isn't someone demanding the footy. I'll give him a 4 as well. And I think, there are probably some fair arguments to be made about maybe a potential run in the Rezzies. Someone I really like in the reserves right now is Oscar Smart, who we've just added to our list through the mid-season draft. Sorry, something was happening in the cricket, so I had to check. I think Rabada almost got Smith out, maybe. Oscar Smart, that's a perfect replacement for me. I think they play pretty similar roles. I wouldn't mind, I don't think we will, but I wouldn't mind seeing Oscar Smart come in this week for the Geelong game to, replace Ben Hobbs, who I think has been, I don't know, fairly poor recently. Isaac Kako, another goalless game, unfortunately. I'm not really worried about the lack of goals. Like at this age, goals don't really matter too much. But I think for him and his confidence, I know that a goal would mean the world to him. It doesn't matter for me and for many fans and for coaches, but it would be a bit of a monkey off the back moment if he was to get a goal. In this game, I mean, I didn't mind him. I checked the stats after the game and was surprised that they were that low. I feel like he had more of an impact than what one kick suggests. And it's kind of that, when Kako gets the ball, he's usually facing the opposition goals. He'll pick it up inside 50, he'll link. He's someone who picks the ball up as it approaches him and runs away from the goals to give a hand pass to a player, standing in an entry position to kick it in. So 9 hand passes, but, how many of those touches would have resulted in inside 50s is the question, even if they weren't off his own boot. Good pressure. But yeah, I think a 5 is around where I'll sit here. I think we probably do need to see more of him to know that he'll stay in the team the season. But I'm not worried about the future. Like there's nothing about this season has made me worry about Kako's place at the club. I know that there are some that are. That's just the Essendon fan base. Like every high draft, I would hate to be a high draft pick playing at Essendon because you have to be an absolute star to have the fan base happy with you. So I'll give him a 5. I'd love to see him kick a goal to get those vibes back for him. Jade Gresham. Yeah, I don't know actually. This is like what I was talking about with Merrett. I've got a range, and it's a very big range, and I'm just trying to remember back to the game. So I was watching with my sister, right? It was her first game watching footy pretty much live. She goes to St Kilda. I don't know why. But all night she was pretty frustrated with Gresham. She was going on about how number 11 was. She wasn't saying he was a goofy goober. She was probably saying something, with a few more swear words thrown in there. But to make it nice, I'll say, he was a goofy goober. But I feel like, I was defending him, which is really rare. I find that Gresham's not usually someone I defend because a lot of the time the criticism is valid. But I thought that, the criticism this year with Gresham is that when he's not playing well, he is not really involved in the game. I don't think he's really had a game this year where he's, had plenty of the ball and done some weird things with it. I think this is the first of those games. Like he did do some weird things with the ball. There were some moments where, he would probably like back, but he kicked 2 goals. He was involved in laying tackles inside 50. I think he had the equal most for the Bombers. He directly assisted a goal as well. So I mean, look, he was doing stuff. He had almost 20 touches for the game as well. Like he was someone that the Blues were definitely worrying about a bit. Like they had their eyes on Gresham because he was actually having a say in the game. I mean, yeah, look, he had some weird moments, but I'm going to give him a 7. I think what we've been wanting to see from Gresham for a while consistently, so he does have to back this up, but what we've been wanting to see is I guess, him being involved. And I thought he was more than involved. I thought he was having a real impact on the game, both positive and negatively. So I'm going to give him the 7. I think he was pretty good. Will Setterfield is going to get an 8. That not for anything he did with the ball. Like that, I don't remember him having heaps of it, but that was just a pure tagging role on Paddy Cripps. He's emptying his pockets when he gets home. He's got his car keys in there. He's got Paddy Cripps in there. He's got his lip balm. I don't know. It was a defensive negating performance. He didn't do heaps with the ball, but I'm fairly sure I saw someone say online that Paddy Cripps had his lowest disposal game in 40 matches or something. That could be completely wrong because I haven't written that down in my notes, but I think it was something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know down in the comments. But yeah, he kept the dual Brownlow medalist to a really quiet game. And that's hard to do. So, yeah, Setterfield gets an 8. Cripps probably gets 3 Brownlow votes. Jayden Laverde. It wasn't the heroics of last week. He was that brick wall last week against the Lions. He was great, one of our best. But, I mean, given the circumstances, I thought he was pretty decent against the Blues. Obviously, Curnow had a bit more of an impact. He kicked 2 goals. Probably should have had 3 or 4. He missed a few easy ones. It felt like when the ball was coming towards Curnow in a one-on-one, it was rarely good for Laverde. There was some good work done to not allow separation from Laverde a lot of the time, but when there was separation, it was pretty obvious that there was a bit of a quality disparity. But yeah, I mean, realistically, Laverde shouldn't be playing on Curnow to begin with. You could argue he probably shouldn't be playing full stop. But yeah, we got to give him credit. He's come into the team. He's forced to play a role that he doesn't want to play, and he's doing his best in a pretty shocking situation. And I honestly thought Curnow, could have had a monster night going into it. It was set up for him to have that, and he didn't. I think he was far away from being one of the better players. So yeah, I mean, 6 out of 10. The real test is this week against the Cats with Jeremy Cameron. I think this is where we see him exposed a bit more because that is scary. That is a scary, scary prospect. Jeremy Cameron versus Essendon. At least, we have to, I guess, be happy that Tom Hawkins isn't playing. Because imagine we had this situation and Tom Hawkins was there. That would have been... I probably would have even watched the game. Would have been a 200-point win. Archie Perkins. Look, he was... he was definitely the right player to sub off, is probably the nicest way to put it. Like, I'll start by saying, like, I obviously agree that, he was our worst player on the field. I don't think that's controversial to say, but I don't think it was a clear-cut horrible game. Like, I don't really think anyone in our team was genuinely horrible. I think the range was actually pretty evenly spread. Like, there wasn't anyone amazing, there wasn't anyone horrible. So I'm not going to give anyone a high rating. I'm not going to give anyone a low rating. Usually, if you're subbed off tactically, it's not good news, especially for a player like Perkins, who I don't even know when the last time he was subbed off tactically. So he's obviously, not having the desired impact. And to continue with that, I hope if this does continue, like even this week, I mean, there does come a stage where we should be seeing him in the resis. Maybe, we bring in Nic Martin or someone this week. If not, if Perkins has another quiet game, it has to be the week after, because he's now out of form. He's struggling. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a 4. I don't think he was horrible. He got on the scoreboard. He linked up fairly well once or twice. I just don't really think we had many bad players against the Blues, and Perkins was just the worst of the poor performers. So yeah, I don't think he was on another level to Hobbs, for example. I feel like a 4 is pretty fair. No one was really that disgraceful, but yeah, the form that Perkins and Hobbs are in, I think they're pretty well in the firing line to be dropped, I'd say. And I don't think many of you will disagree there. Old gold. Like with Laverde, there's a few of these guys where you just can't be too harsh on someone filling in. Like, realistically, if we're fully fit, Goldie is not playing. He's probably not even really close to playing if we're fully fit. So we've got to cut him slack, as always. He was pretty soundly beaten by TDK. I thought, De Koning was the best player on the ground. The coaches thought the same too. He got 10 votes. Maybe a 5 out of 10. Like, I'm not going to give Goldie a bad rating. Like, I can't give him less than a 5 because it's more the situation than Goldie himself. And I think Goldie is having a real crack out there. You can tell that he's having a crack. He's doing his best. But yeah, he was just soundly beaten by a much better ruckman. I can't give him anything lower than a 5. It's old gold. We got to cut him some slack. So yeah, 5 out of 10. For those, by the way, suggesting Vigo comes in, Vigo was taught a similar lesson in the VFL by Mark Pitternet. So, yeah, Goldie's still definitely our best option there. So, there's no doubt about that. Moving on. Peter Wright. And can we just take a second to appreciate this bloke, all right? Because he is having some sort of season. This is the best footy he has played since 2022. He's just about our most important player right now. And that's funny because he wasn't in the best 22 to start the year. Yeah, because we don't have height, so to have a 2-metre player on an absolute tear is great. He kicked 3 goals, rucked a bit, he had the 12 hit-outs, so he's rucking to relieve Goldie and being important up forward. He nullified the impact of Wiedering, 4 tackles as well. He got 1 vote from both you and me. I thought he was pretty clearly one of our best players, and the thing is, right, this bloke was a whipping boy before the year started. And now look at him. He's playing awesome footy. He's right up there in the best column most weeks. It is just good to see him turn it around. You can clearly see his role now. And he really does make it easier to have that one ruck set up because his ruck work is genuinely all right. So yeah, he's a great forward ruck when he plays like this. Just good stuff. Without him right now, we would be absolutely screwed in multiple positions as well. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for 2-metre Peter. I thought he was crucial in that second and third quarter to get us back in the game. Now, I definitely am going early here on the drinks break, but I am parched. So I am going to go get a drink. And this one, again, it involves me getting up to go to the fridge. So I will be back. This time I'm not going to have a nap though, okay? No naps this time, but I'll be back in a second. Alrighty, so our drink of choice today is the Coco Bella. No one suggested this, by the way. This was just in my fridge. I bought it a while ago and I haven't gotten around to trying it yet. It is the Coco Bella watermelon and mint flavored coconut water. I know that no one cares about this. I've been wanting to try it for a while. I don't know why I've been scared to try it because I don't know if it's going to taste good. And I don't like purchasing something and not enjoying it. So I'm going to give it a go. No one cares. I'm doing it anyway. Apologies. Keep leaving the suggestions in because I do have a few down in my notes that I will be getting eventually. I mean, it's not very good. Oh, actually, hold on. Aftertaste. Oh, it's not... Like, it's... The fact that it's, like, not horrible probably makes it more disappointing for me. I'm going to give it like a 4. That was, like, it's pretty mid. And I think it's, yeah. Well, this is why I got to listen to you guys more. You guys bring out the good drink suggestions. Yeah, next time it'll be one of yours. I really wanted to try that. And I'm not glad that I did. By the way, I don't know who commented over in the... I was with Dylan, Talks Footy, watching the under-18s game. One of you guys got me to try water or something. I don't really remember, but I appreciate that. It confused the hell out of him. Anyway, 4 out of 10 for that vile drink. Archie Roberts. Yeah, I mean, it was actually a rare, pretty average game from Archie. You know, he was no good. And I didn't think we'd ever say that. If anything, I think it's a good thing that, you know, that he wasn't great, because it proves he's human. I genuinely think this is the first not good game of footy that he has played in his short career. And, you know, he had 14 disposals, 5 of which were turnovers. His direct opponents were getting off the chain a little bit. I saw him on Motlop a few times, and it didn't always end the best. So he wasn't as defensively aware as he usually is, which, you know, is far from... Well, it is a criticism, but it's not anything to really be worried about. If anything, I think it is weird that it's taken him this long to have a poor game of footy. Like, I mean, I feel like with Roberts, he's now built pretty lofty expectations. If this game was, you know, Luamon Lual or Angus Clarke or Zak Johnson, you're like an early, player, I'd be a lot more lenient. But we've seen how consistent Roberts is, and, you know, I've given him 5s and 6s this year, and those games are much higher than this one in terms of quality. So for Roberts, I was going to give him a 4, but I'm just, you know what, nah, I'm going to give him a 5. I just think with our defensive situation, we do have to be cutting them some slack. Like, this is, he shouldn't be playing the way he is. Like, every defender back there is under the pump. I'm going to give him a 5. I'm going to bump it up. I don't think he was good, but, you know, I think given what he's working with, he's doing enough. Yeah. 5 for Roberts. Rare, poor game. He'll bounce back. Don't you worry. Sammy Seymour Durham. Look, we may as well talk about the suspension here more than anything, because it's pretty topical. There's been plenty of Twitter arguments about it. And for me, right, like, as soon as you elect to bump, because he does bump, you have to make sure it's efficient. Like, you can't, the moment you collect a player high, it's on you. And I know that's unfair, but that is just the way footy's going. We're protecting the head. Now, part of the blame has to go on Cerra for his technique. I don't know what he was thinking going in that timidly and slowly. Durham clearly thought Cerra would go inside on as well, so he did the same. But that doesn't really excuse Durham for bumping in that moment for me. Like, it's not malicious. I don't think he intended to hurt Cerra. He was just in the moment, he was hot at the contest and maybe just a little bit reckless. And that's the way I see it. I think 2 weeks is pretty fair. He probably needed to rest that ankle anyway, so like in hindsight, it might be a good thing to have him rest. It has caused him a bit of strife lately. But yeah, I think it's a fair suspension. Aside from the suspension, I thought he was pretty good. I'm probably going to downgrade him a little bit just because of the suspension. Like, I know it's not entirely his fault. Like, it's a tough situation, but I think it's pretty fair that he's rubbed out. But yeah, he's probably around a 7 or an 8. I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was one of our better players. He probably wasn't one of our best players. Like, I feel like there's a difference between the level of Peter Wright on the night and the level of Sam Durham. So 7 for Durham. He's going to be suspended for the next couple of weeks, unfortunately. Jaxon Prior. Now, this is all the defenders are so tough to judge because, like, Prior he's playing on the debutant, Hudson O'Keefe. O'Keefe took 5 contested marks, the most on the ground. That is, it's based on that, you'd think Prior had a stinker. But then you realise that Prior is he's less than 190 centimetres tall. Hudson O'Keefe is over 2 metres tall. So, that's not a mismatch. That's something that you just don't really see in footy. Differences that big. At the moment, Prior is unfortunately our second key defender because Redmond went down. So, I mean, like, if we were to cut anyone on the ground a bit of slack for the performance, it is Jaxon Prior. There was just not a lot he could do at times. The height difference was crazy. And even with all those contested marks and one-on-one losses, O'Keefe really didn't do that much. Like, it wasn't as if O'Keefe was tearing us apart. He just pretty much took a few grabs hovering over Prior, who's a lot smaller, and then for the rest of the game was unsighted. Like, it did, however, mean that Prior was less involved going forward. He was more defensively aware. And I feel like, I don't know. No one's really talked about the mismatch much, so it means that, Pryor probably did his job. Like, O'Keefe had, I think, 6 or 7 touches for the game on a guy that's a head smaller than him. I'm going to give Pryor a 6. That's his direct opponent. His direct opponent's not doing much. I know he's on debut, but he should be able to do more than he did on a player so much smaller than him. So I thought Pryor defended well, given the fact that he had to play on a player, a giant compared to him. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Where are we? Xavier Duursma. He gets an 8. Game 100, I thought he was pretty close to being our best. Some would argue he was our best. I think, there was one more better than him. But yeah, I loved his work rate. I loved his attack on the ball. And it felt like everything he did had real purpose behind it. Like, there was no stat padding at all. Every one of his 20 disposals felt really significant. The biggest one being that goal to get us within touching distance of the win. He was working back to defend. He was working forward to kick the goals. This was the most complete wing game you see. Like, it was just a really cool battle, not really between him and Akers, because they're on opposite wings, but I guess between Duursma and Akers on opposite wings. Because, Akers had more of the pill than Duursma. And I was thinking during the game, right, I was watching, I saw Lual on Akers, and I was thinking, why don't we just put Duursma on him, run him, with Akers to slow Akers down? And then I realised it's because Duursma was doing more damage. And, he got in the coaches' votes, Akers didn't, and I think that sums it up. I think our wingman was making the game a tougher one than their wingman. I loved his performance. That's what I knew we would get when we, not the quality, but I knew we'd get that level of work rate and determination. And, even the shoulder dislocation, like he dislocates his shoulder, pops it back into play, plays on. He's a tough player. He's quickly become a fan favourite, Xavier Duursma. 8 out of 10 for him. Good stuff. Nate Caddy, I'm going to give him a 5. I thought Silvani was all over him. It was great defending from Silvani, but I do want to hype up Nate a little bit, because despite him having a quiet day, like, he didn't really do too much, but despite that, we did see incredible moments. The main one being that assist, that soccer off the ground to set up the Gresham goal. That is going right in the highlights reel. And to have a game like this, like after the Brisbane performance, I think it's important in a quiet game that we still see him impact at times. Like, he's not nowhere. He wasn't out of the game completely. He was clearly beaten by his opponent, but he had moments. So yeah, 5 out of 10, but a good 5 out of 10. I liked it. Luamon Lual on debut. Very interesting to see him play. But I wasn't expecting to see him play at all this year at AFL level. But here we are. He did. And the fun thing is, how do I say this? At VFL level, like, he kind of played at the level he does in the VFL, if you get me. I don't know if you don't. So, like, in the VFL, when he's playing, he's having moments. He's not, getting heaps of the pill. He's impacting in patches. He's playing roles, running hard, defending well. And, it's good to see him play well, but I feel like when you're in the VFL, to crack into the team, you need to play great. Like if you're in the VFL playing your role, you kind of need to exceed that and go past that. But Lual comes in the AFL and does the exact same thing that he does at VFL level. Like that game is what we usually see in the VFL. I don't think he played worse than he does in the VFL, which is surprising. Like, usually when a player moves from the VFL to the AFL, there's obviously going to be a decrease in quality because the quality of those around them is so much higher. But I thought he was really good. He drifted forward to kick our first goal of the game. That was an awesome moment. His attack on the ball was great. His tackling pressure was great. I think he has to keep his spot. And all of a sudden, last week I'm thinking his career might be in jeopardy. Now he's got a chance to prove that he can be a player for the future. So yeah, it's really fun. Gives Rosa some more headaches. I'm giving him a 7. I thought that was a really solid debut. He really did surprise me, Luamon. That was great to see. And I don't know if you guys would remember, it was a while ago, but I was a very big fan of Luamon Lual in his draft year. I did a mock draft before the draft night, and I had us taking him because I really liked him. So it is. I was very happy to see him play. I obviously, I thought he was under the pump from a list management point of view. But in an ideal world, Luamon Lual is playing lots of footy for us, like for me, because he's a bit of a. I like him. I've grown to like him. Whenever there's someone that you like in your draft year, kind of like Angus Clarke too. It always makes you like him a bit more when they start playing footy. So good to see him out there. Loved that. That was debut number 8, by the way. So we've got more to come too. Jesus. Matt Guelfi. I'm going to give him a 7. I know that might be surprising looking at his stats, but I loved his game. I thought that was one of the better 9 disposal games that we've seen this year, at least. And like I said with Duursma, like everything Guelfi did had meaning. His pressure in the forward 50 was incredible. He was throwing himself around. There was that one contest where he pushes off. It was Wiedering, I think, to try and take a one-hander. Then he drops it, but on the follow-up, he tackles whoever intercepted it after and gets a hold on the ball free kick. It's just tireless attack of the footy. It's the most Guelfi game you'll see, like just locking down on opponents, putting heat and pressure on the distributor, kicking a goal, getting the crowd up and about. Yep, I thought he was really good. I'm giving him a 7. It's rare you see someone have 9 disposals but get a 7, but I think Guelfi deserves it. It was a really good role players game. Another 7 to Angus Clarke. He didn't get to do too much with the footy, but credit to him for what he did without it. Like he was on Mitch McGovern for most of the night, and if you look at the size of Angus Clarke and the size of Mitch McGovern, like it's a fair few more kegs on him. But Clarke wasn't beaten in a one-on-one all night. McGovern only had 11 disposals. He kicked a goal, but Clarke got a bit of a peel, used it really nicely. There was that one kick, which you guys will know the one I'm talking about, where he's on the wing, he spots up Durham running. Like he has easier options. It's late in the game, but he spots Durham in a good position, laces him out. Durham unfortunately drops the mark, but the kick to get there was incredible. And I just love that, this is a guy in his 3rd game, locking down on proven players, taking on risky kicks. I just love the way he goes about it. And yeah, he gets a 7 out of 10. I thought that was aside from his debut, that's the most promising performance we've seen from him. I guess there's only been 3, but yeah, it was really good. And he's being forced to play in defence a bit because of those injuries. So yeah, good to see him playing good footy. I really like Angus Clarke. This guy's going to play a lot of footy for the Bombers. Nic Martin, he was our best. The question is it an 8? Is it a 9? I don't think it was a 9. I think it's an 8. Yeah, and like he's played better games, but also his form is fantastic. He's actually now leading the Player of the Year votes, by the way, ahead of Merrett. So yeah, that shows the form he's in. He's quickly taken that. How everyone was having that debate about who was the second best player after Merrett. I don't think that's a debate anymore. I think it's pretty clearly Nic Martin, and there's an argument that he's our best player this year. He didn't play full midfield minutes. He was playing a bit out of the back more. 9 intercepts. He was getting involved up forward as well. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for Martin. He's having some kind of year. Thank you to every other club for passing on him. It means a lot. Zak Johnson. Second game. Made his debut last week. It looked a tiny bit shaky early last week, but he got going later in the game. But this week, I feel like he just picked up from where he left off at the end and just looked so at home. Like he was so composed, so classy with the footy, and we needed that down there. Because it's funny, because that's a second gamer. This is one of the guys that's giving us the composure back there as a second gamer. He had 18 disposals. He went at 85% by foot. He was in our top 5 for metres gained. He intercepted with 7 interceptions, so that's similar numbers to last week. So he's reading the ball really well, reads the game really well as well. Zak Johnson. I mean, this guy to me, he's just a pure footballer. I talked about Angus Clarke playing lots for the club. I think this guy's he's going to be a great player for us. And I said this before he made his debut. I said this at the start of the year. It's an absolute steal at pick 70. There's plenty more to come from Zak Johnson, not just in the future, but this year. I think we'll see that Rising Star nomination eventually. Yeah, really, really great pickup, and this is someone that's going to be, I think, a big part of our future. I don't want to, put the moz on him or anything, but yeah, I think this is a pretty special player to have at pick 70 in the draft. Archie Day-Wicks. And let me say, right, I've just hyped up Clarke and Johnson and, Lual, but of all the debutants in this, this season debutants, aside from Lual maybe, but Archie Day-Wicks was probably the guy who impressed me most. And I know that it looks weird, he's got 6 disposals, but I often say the sub is a really tough role to play. Day-Wicks was playing as the sub for the first time in his career. He swaps places with Archie Perkins, and there was a genuine upgrade. Like, you could feel the shift when Day-Wicks comes on the ground. He plays 1 quarter of footy, he has 6 disposals, 83% efficiency, he moves around the ground so well, he's finding holes, taking marks to slow down the game. He impacts going forward, he had 2 involvements from 6 touches, 131 metres gained. Like, it is hard to judge subs, but if you spread that over 4 quarters, it is a pretty damn good game of footy. And Day-Wicks is playing game, 4 or 5? Like, he hasn't played much, so I think of his 5 games or 4 games, however many it is, I don't know, of his games that he's played for us so far, this one is the one that's impressed me the most. I really liked what I saw with Day-Wicks. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 7. I thought, from that game, Clarke, Johnson and Day-Wicks showed exactly what we've got from that draft. Like, we nailed it. Those guys, and all later too. Clarke was picked 39. Johnson picked 70. Day-Wicks in the rookie draft. That is fantastic. That is awesome recruiting. Not Dodora, sorry. Rosa, I love you. And finally, to end, we've got our coach, Brad Scott. It's always tough to grade after a loss because, the feeling is very positive. Like, obviously, there's disappointment, but it's a positive feeling. And I really liked his comments after the game because he kind of, went off that. He was talking about how we're obviously playing for the future, but that doesn't change the desire to win and what we're going to do in the present. And he said that a lot this year. There was clear disappointment despite progress being made, and I'm going to give him a 6. Like, I thought we were slow to get going, and that has to be questioned. That's happened a lot this year. We got back in the game, though, and we controlled it for 3 quarters against a team who should have been controlling it ahead of us. Yeah, I thought we were the better team for most of the game, so 6 out of 10 for our coach. But yeah, that is that. Delayed video. I apologize. I was late to get it done, but it is done now. Thank you for watching, guys. We've got the Cats on Saturday. That is going to be interesting. So stay tuned for that. I'll have the review out on, I was about to say 19. I don't even know how that came to my head. We'll get the review out on Sunday. We'll get the player ratings and the VFL out on Monday and Tuesday. And then it's the preview for the Fremantle game on Wednesday. It's a pretty quick turnaround. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, go Bombers.